Russia rushed to boast of victories in Pokrovsk, only to see entire mechanized columns turned to ash. Within minutes, UAVs locked onto targets, artillery rained down, and the road became a steel graveyard. But that was just the opening act. Inside the city, the elite 425th Skelya Regiment set up checkpoints, systematically dismantling Russian formations piece by piece. On the outer perimeter, the Azov Corps tightened the noose, capturing dozens of panicked soldiers begging to surrender. Pokrovsk today is no longer where Russia seeks victory, it's where the world witnesses an army in collapse. Russian forces reveal their own position, annihilated in seconds. Pokrovsk becomes a mechanized graveyard. A Russian Z channel inadvertently posted online footage of their own attack near Pokrovsk. Ukraine could only say, "Thank you, gentlemen." Minutes later, coordinates were determined, reconnaissance UAVs locked targets, artillery opened fire. The entire Russian mechanized column vanished. Only corpses and burn marks stretching across the road remained. This wasn't just an isolated incident. It reflects the systematic disintegration of Russian forces around Pokrovsk. On the front lines, increasing numbers of Russian soldiers are refusing orders to attack. Officers are forced to record video testimonies from their subordinates. Troops who flatly state they'd rather go to prison than charge into Pokrovsk, a place dubbed the meat grinder of the war. Against this backdrop, Z blogger Arutunov confirmed a brutal truth. The very success showcase video posted by Russian soldiers, footage of convoys of motorcycles and civilian vehicles driving through fog to avoid UAVs, helped Ukraine identify their position and eliminate the entire force within hours. The BBC also verified the location, the Selidov-Pokrovsk route, where dense fog is typically viewed by Russian forces as natural cover. But in modern warfare, there are no more blind spots. The viral video became a death invitation. This incident exposes a dangerous paradox in the Russian military system. Propaganda is prioritized over operational security. Every social media hype moment reveals unit positions, causing Russian forces to walk straight into Ukrainian traps. Currently, Russia has only about 300 to 500 troops clinging to positions in southern Pokrovsk. Far too few compared to the number of soldiers they've thrown into the encirclement, only to be systematically eliminated by Ukrainian UAVs and precision artillery. The battle around Pokrovsk no longer belongs to brigades or regiments. It has transformed into a form of shadow warfare, where small teams of 2 to 3 personnel navigate through dense UAV networks. Any large-scale forces are immediately detected and eliminated upon exposure. Both Russia and Ukraine must keep main units at least 10 kilometers from the town's edge. The absolute dominance of UAVs creates a brutal reality. Merely appearing on the road means death. And in this game, Russian forces have fallen into a fatal weakness. Russia has assembled forces consisting of conscripts, unwillingly mobilized soldiers, convicts, and penal battalions. These are units lacking skills, experience, and independent combat capability, completely unsuited for modern warfare, requiring autonomy and reflexes in a 360-degree lethal environment. When soldiers refuse to fight, Russian officers confiscate their pay and transfer them to penal battalions. These expendable units are thrown to the front as bait, forced to move through fire corridors to trigger Ukrainian UAVs. And when detected, they're typically abandoned. That's why, despite Russia pouring 110,000 to 150,000 troops into Pokrovsk, they still cannot capitalize on their numerical advantage. On the UAV battlefield, greater numbers simply mean more targets to eliminate.
Elite Ukrainian forces close the ring around Pokrovsk. Russians collapse, surrender en masse. Pokrovsk is becoming the focal point of the entire Donetsk front, a battlefield where Ukraine's military deploys its most elite units to hold defensive lines and shatter every Russian breakthrough attempt. As the adversary continuously concentrates forces for assault, the 425th Skelya Assault Regiment is leading a series of decisive counterattack campaigns, local encirclements, checkpoint establishments, and swift, precise strikes that leave Russia in deadlock. Video released by the regiment itself shows Ukrainian assault teams operating within the heart of Pokrovsk. They're blocking every breakthrough direction, while securing key defensive points to maintain initiative in each district. The 1st Assault Battalion cleared a Russian stronghold in the north and captured a strategic road leading straight to the center. allowing Ukraine to accelerate the rotation of troops, UAVs and firepower into the battle's hottest zone. On the main railway axis, Scalia units erected interconnected defensive lines, completely blocking Russian assault directions from the northeast. In the west, and at Pokrovsk's gateway, raid groups continuously clean out Russian positions one by one, coordinating with UAVs to detect, attack, pin targets in the shortest time possible. A Scalia group currently holds firm in the central administrative building, a position subjected to concentrated Russian fire. However, the building stands strong and has become a vital anchor for Ukraine's entire defensive system. Meanwhile, other assault spearheads continue retaking northern districts, pushing back Russian infantry attempting to puncture defensive lines. Reports from the front indicate that 20 to 50 Russian soldiers are eliminated daily just in infantry engagements in Pokrovsk, figures demonstrating Ukraine's superiority in skills, UAV coordination, and urban warfare capability. Another video captures small Scalia combat teams, just 2 to 3 personnel, moving through alleys following reconnaissance UAVs, attacking individual buildings, then immediately consolidating positions before Russia can react. Pokrovsk isn't a place for large-scale battles. This is the battlefield of small, sharp, precise blades, where Ukraine maintains absolute dominance. While Scalia holds Pokrovsk from within, the 1st Azov National Guard Corps commands the northern outskirts. In the Dobropilya and Kostiantinivka directions, Azov forces just captured 21 Russian soldiers, one of the largest surrender incidents in recent weeks. Some Russian soldiers voluntarily surrendered when their defensive lines collapsed under Ukrainian UAV and precision mortar fire. The remainder were forced to lay down weapons when encircled during Azov counterattack operations. Supply shortages, chaotic command, and heavy casualties around Pokrovsk-Kostiantinivka have driven Russian morale to its lowest point since the campaign began. Increasing numbers of soldiers are choosing surrender over being pushed into suicide assault waves. 4 Flamingo missiles pierce Russian air defense, seaport, power plants, and radars explode in one night. In the early hours of November 13th, Ukraine launched one of the largest and most sophisticated long-range strike campaigns since the war began. Flamingo cruise missiles, BARs, and Lyutii strategic UAVs, along with high-speed unmanned systems, were launched simultaneously, striking numerous critical targets in Crimea, occupied Zaporizhia, and deep inside Russian territory. This is the clearest evidence yet that Kiev has achieved a quantum leap in precision strike capability and penetrating Russian air defense systems. On the night of November 12th to 13th, video from the Novorossiysk area showed a Flamingo missile diving straight into a Russian air defense missile launcher right beside the seaport, a location supposedly protected by a dense network of radars and missiles like a steel web. The strike's precision stunned Moscow. Russia cannot protect its own air defense systems against a missile with high speed, flexible flight paths, and extremely low trajectory. In Oriol, Russia shot down 1 Flamingo, but burning debris showered the entire area, revealing a liquid incendiary warhead design, engineered to continue causing damage even when intercepted. Another Flamingo reportedly penetrated air defenses and hit a target in the city center, while long-range UAVs struck directly at a thermal power plant. Shortly after, Ukraine released video showing 4 Flamingos launched in the same campaign, confirming Kiev is operating a modern long-range strike complex capable of multi-layered coordination, from missiles to UAVs. On this same night, Crimea suffered unprecedented attack intensity. Strategic fuel depots, logistics centers crucial to the Black Sea Fleet and Russian air forces, helicopter parking and UAV storage at Kirovskoye, where Russia assembles attack UAVs for deep strikes into Ukraine, Yevpatoria Air Defense Radar Station, Russia's primary surveillance link on the peninsula. These were all safe zones, areas Russia believed Flamingo couldn't reach, but reality erased all assumptions. No position remains beyond Ukraine's reach. In occupied Zaporizhia, fuel storage in Berdyansk was destroyed, and 2 Russian command posts were attacked. Simultaneously, numerous targets deep inside Russian territory were struck, nearly simultaneously. Low interception rates prove a terrifying reality for Moscow. Russia cannot defend its own airspace against Ukraine's multi-directional, multi-layered attacks. A senior Ukrainian official told the BBC bluntly, "This winter is Russia's last chance. If Ukraine holds until April 1st, we will win." This isn't a morale statement, it's an assessment based on comprehensive battlefield, economic, and political data. Ukrainian officials' reasoning shows why they believe time is on Kiev's side. Russia cannot sustain infrastructure attack intensity indefinitely. Russian stockpiles of UAVs, missiles, and budget are depleting rapidly. Ukrainian air defense for 2025 to 2026 is being reinforced by the West at record speed. Energy attacks are only effective during the cold months. Therefore, Russia's only window of victory lies in winter 2025 to 2026. If Ukraine survives this period and enters April while weather warms, energy demand decreases, and air defense continues strengthening, then Moscow's sabotage campaign will lose effectiveness, while Ukraine enters a markedly stronger strategic position. Russian general admits defeat, calls for Putin's resignation. Rare voice of warning from inside the Kremlin. As the war enters its fourth year and Russia faces increasingly evident defeats, an unexpected voice emerges from within Moscow's power structure itself. General Leonid Ivashov, a veteran figure who held numerous critical positions in the Ministry of Defense and once represented Russia in international military relations. He's not an opposition figure, not pro-Western. He's a quintessential product of the Russian military system, with experience spanning from the 1990s to present. And therefore, when Ivashov declares Russia is losing and calls for Putin's resignation, this is no longer an isolated opinion. It's a warning from someone who understands best the structure of war and Russia's true limits. What he describes aren't accusations from outside, but an honest report on chaos within the armed forces. Mass recruitment without screening, dragging even prisoners to the front. Soldiers blackmailed, detained, tortured when requesting investigations into violations. Wounded personnel, even those with infectious diseases like hepatitis or HIV, still pushed back to the front lines. Discipline collapsing, units losing capacity for self-organization and combat. According to Ivashov, when the apparatus can no longer control these internal problems, military capability collapses from the root, not just in combat power, but in morale, discipline, and trust in command. One of the most dangerous warnings he issues concerns how the military system is deceiving itself. Mistakes covered up to avoid political purges, defeats concealed to protect positions of those who only excel at hiding numbers, effective commanders removed for not fitting the beautiful report culture. The consequence is Russia's army no longer led by those who know how to fight, but by those who know how to whitewash failure. Ivashov calls this a deadly, vicious cycle. An army that hides the truth will collapse faster both on the battlefield and politically. As early as January 2022, Ivashov warned that if Russia attacked Ukraine, the economy would be exhausted, population would sharply decline, Russia's international standing would be destroyed. 3 years later, all of this is manifesting. The economy bled dry by war, diplomacy isolated. Russia forced to rely on Iran and North Korea, countries as isolated as itself. Not just losing on the battlefield, Russia is entering a trajectory of systemic weakening, something insiders have begun voicing openly.
A shocking point in Ivashov's argument is his skepticism about weapon systems the Kremlin constantly praises. He sarcastically declared that Russia's new nuclear missiles will guarantee security, then argued, the US can destroy us before our missiles reach their targets. This is a warning that nuclear propaganda cannot hide reality. Russia is clearly showing weakness in air defense, command, and capacity to sustain prolonged war. According to Ivashov, the strategy Russia is pursuing, seizing territory at any cost, regardless of soldier lives, is a path that certainly leads to destruction. Recruits thrown into battle without training, wounded forced back to the front, human beings treated as consumable material. Small geographical objectives may be achieved, but the price paid is lasting devastation to human resources, national morale, and security foundations. Parallel to Ivashov's warning, billionaire Mikhail Khodorkovsky, once Russia's richest man and the figure who understands Moscow's power structure best, delivers an uncompromising analysis of Russia's disease. Khodorkovsky writes that the West has been making the same mistake repeatedly for over 3 decades. When Yeltsin failed, they sought a better successor. When Putin became a dictator, they hoped for a more cooperative version of Putin. He asserts, all efforts failed because the seat of power in the Kremlin doesn't allow anyone to become a good leader. It forces any president to concentrate power, control all revenue sources, and create external enemies to maintain unity. This isn't individual fault, it's structural fault. He gives examples. Russia spans thousands of kilometers. The center must redistribute 50 to 60% of taxes to maintain stability. Favored regions create resentment in others. Without decentralization mechanisms, all instability falls on the center. Therefore, any Russian leader is pushed toward dictatorial power concentration or ejected from the seat. History proves this. Gorbachev didn't create external enemies, lost power. Yeltsin ended his term with a military campaign. Putin consolidated power through war and continues using war to survive. According to Khodorkovsky, Russia only has a future if regions have real voice, civil society has space. Power isn't concentrated in one individual. The state is transparent before the people. He writes, "Only when we learn to speak with one common voice, even when disagreeing, will Russia escape the cycle of dictatorship and revenge." Khodorkovsky believes that if the system changes, within just one generation, Russia could become a normal country. He concludes, "Understanding the past is a condition for saving Russia's future. And every time the West places hope in a new Tsar, the vicious cycle of dictatorship begins again from scratch."